Hi, Sarah here. Thank you for coming over to my channel. Today I've got a lovely sewing project to show you. I've been working on it for quite a while and I hope you love it just as much as I do. This animal purse, which is fully lined with no exposed seams. So first of all, go and find the template. You can find it in the links below and cut it out, and then we need to choose some pretty fabrics. We'll need an outer fabric and a lining, so choose two that go nicely together. I think I'll use these two. So we need to cut 4, 2 and reverse. And we'll also need some interfacing that you can iron onto your outer fabric. If you've got a nice quilted one, that would work perfectly. Something nice and soft would work the best. If you want to add a little strap as well, then get another rectangle of fabric cut, and this can be anything from 16 centimeters long. I'll show you that later. Or if you want to add a little clasp or something, then we can add that in instead, or a bit of ribbon or anything. So I'm going to go away and cut these, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. And one last other little thing we of course need is a zipper. Just make sure it is as long as this edge here. A little bit longer always works better. And the measurement of this one is 20 centimeters, and that's from this point to this point. So I just wanted to show you, here's my outer fabric and the interfacing, and I'm going to iron the interfacing on so that I can have the template so that it's facing up and then in reverse. The shiny gluey side of the interfacing just goes down on the wrong side of the fabric, and we're going to iron that in place. And then if you have a directional fabric, put an arrow on your template facing up just like that, and that's going to be the direction of your fabric. So even though this is spotty, even though it could effectively go anywhere, I'm going to make sure I align the arrow facing up so I at least have one row of the dots going that way. So I've cut most pieces out now. My outer fabric has the interfacing attached. As I say, if you've got a nice quilted one, maybe use a soft one. That would work really well for this. So we have our outer fabric and one in reverse, and then we have the lining and one in reverse. So two of both of those. And then we're going to line them up together and sew the zipper in. First of all, take your lining and right side facing up, and now we're having the zip, and we place that down so that that also faces up, and you've got the little zip facing up there. And then we take our outer fabric and place this right side down, making sure we align these points up. Just have a look under there, under the zip, and make sure it's lining up with the corners there, and we're just going to pin all down this zip here. And then we take it to the sewing machine and we'll sew right down the zip there. I've sewn that in place on the sewing machine. If you've got a zipper foot, then do use it, and then simply fold the two together so we've got now the wrong sides of the fabric together, and we're going to sew a nice straight line along here. Every time we sew, back stitch at the beginning and the end of every seam. And now we're going to repeat for the other side. So take your lining right side up, and we're going to add the zip right side up over the top of that. Again, nice neatly aligning in there. Align your points, and then we take the outer fabric and we're going to add that in over the top, right side down, just as we did before. pin it in, and then we can sew just as we did before. Add a nice neat stitch. Now that's sewn, open it up again as we did before. So bend that over, bring your lining round, and then you can press this if you like with the iron and then stitch as we did before right down there. So there we have it, nice and neatly stitched. I did cut a strap that I could have added in, but I don't always add these in, and maybe your first one you don't need to add it in. But if you do make one, we just cut our rectangle, fold it neatly into four and press it like that, and then we'll sew each side and you can add it in. I'll just show you on another one how I do that now. The strap can really be as long or as short as you like. I've done this one fairly wide and fairly long so I can get my wrist through it. And so simply do your first side exactly as we did before, and then for the second side we're just going to sew the strap in place. So line it up all as we did before. The outer will go on the top exactly as we did before, and then take your strap with the two loose ends nicely pinched together so that you'll have the loop on the left there, and then pin that neatly in place and sew exactly as we did before. And there you have a lovely loop to hold your little purse. So this little purse is fully lined with no exposed seams. So we need to do that bit next. And so here you can see I've got the two outer pieces, pulled them up together, and I'm going to neatly align them and pin them together. So make sure at this stage you open the zip at least halfway. You'll need that for turning later. And that you point the teeth of the zip towards the lining. So the teeth are there poking into the lining, and we're just going to neatly pin it all up into place. So the lining is together and the outer fabric is together. Here I'm adding two coloured pins in so that I leave a gap here. So we're going to sew in a minute, and that bit there just notifies my gap. And so we're going to take it to the sewing machine, sew right the way from here all the way around across the zip nice and tightly to this one pin, leave a gap, and then sew from the pin to the edge there. So there we go, nice and neatly sewn all the way around, left a gap, there's my gap. And just to try and neaten it up, you could have done this just before we sewed actually. Just put a few stitches in across the zip there so they're not waving about while we do the next step. Just makes it a bit neater. And so now we've got two little openings at the top of our purse. We're going to take the outer fabrics, going to neatly align your seam there, the centre of the seam with the centre of the zip. A nice press it in place there, add some pins, and we're going to sew across there. Line it neatly, just really try and do this bit as neatly as you can because these two top bits here form the ears. So I'm going to take the sewing machine, so from here up to the edge of the zip there, making sure we don't catch anything from behind in our stitches. So I've sewn there and there, and I'm going to repeat that for the lining. You see there, that's holding those stitches in. So take the lining fold it and neatly align again those the top there, nice and neatly. Add some pins and we're going to sew again, making sure we don't catch anything else behind in it. Sew the lining as we did before. If you are struggling and everything's getting a bit caught, what you can actually do is pinch all four of these top bits together, just like this, and sew right across the top. Your ears might not come out quite as crisp, but if you're struggling, then do that. So there we go, I've sewn the lining like I sewn the outer there, and we still have a little gap around the zip. So what we're going to do is going to very neatly push those together, try and open that little seam up there, and we're going to sew right across the zip into our other stitch lines, and that will just hold the zip firmly in place there. So there we go, we've done that, and we can now just trim off the ends of the zip. Snip the seam allowance off at the corners of the ears and also clip around the edge of the curved lines. Now this is the exciting part, we get to turn it around and actually see the little cat start to emerge. So reach into the lining, the gap we had there, and just invert it all. Then open that zip if you can and pull out the outer fabric and just tease it all into place. Use a chopstick or a turning tool if you have one. Don't worry, I do go back in a little moment and I clip the seams for that curve and the ears, so I do that bit as well. Make sure you push those ears out, get the nice point into the ear. And then a little bit later we'll close that gap on the lining. And so now we can add some features for the cat. I've just simply taken a pencil and drawn on some sleepy eyes and some ears, but you of course can add whatever features you wish. So I've got some embroidery thread here, tied a knot at the end. I've got a double thread. I'm going to go in through that gap in the lining and I'm just going to embroider on the little eyes here. So come through in the top left end and then just follow what I'm doing here. I'm going back in to nearly where the needle came out. Hold it down with your left thumb and then it's kind of like a looped back stitch here. You get kind of a twisted line, twisted embroidery line for the eye, and then we'll do the same for the ear, and you can add whatever kind of nose and some whiskers and just go to town if you like, or keep it quite simple like I like mine and just decorate them. Then you can tie off the loose threads just through the lining there and then carry on with the rest of your stitches I like to add a few eyelashes in. You can do that with just some long single stitches. Once all the features are sewn in place, you can go ahead and ladder stitch the lining closed. So I'll do that with just a single thread, and you just go inside one side and across to the other, as in the diagram there. So there we go. I've really enjoyed this project. I hope you do have a go and make lots of these little cats. They make wonderful gifts. If you've not seen already, I've got lots of other crafts, sewing and creativity over on my channel. Lots more free projects for you to get stuck into and enjoy. And I hope to see you again soon. Please do subscribe. Bye for now.